moment a man awakens his true power. There is a moment that happens in every powerful man's life. It is not loud, it is not dramatic, but everything changes after it. It is the moment he realizes that his greatest enemy was never the world, it was himself. Look at every great warrior story, every hero's journey, every transformation arc. Before the hero becomes powerful, he is distracted, weak, undisciplined. His energy is scattered. He reacts to impulse instead of directing his life. Anime shows this pattern again and again. A young warrior full of potential, but lacking control, lacking focus, lacking discipline. And the reason is always the same. He has power, but he has not learned to command it. The same thing happens to men in the real world. Every man is born with enormous energy inside him. Drive, ambition, sexual desire, the urge to compete and build something meaningful. But that energy can go in two directions. It can build a man, or it can destroy him. Most men never learn the difference. Instead of directing that energy toward growth, they release it constantly through lust, through impulse, through instant gratification. And slowly, something happens. The fire that should have fueled their ambition becomes weaker. Their focus disappears. Their discipline fades. They still dream about success, but the intensity behind those dreams is gone. This is why so many men feel like they're capable of more, yet struggle to unlock their potential. They're not lacking ability, they are leaking power. In many ancient traditions, this idea was understood clearly. They believed that sexual energy was one of the most powerful forces inside a man, not something to be wasted carelessly, but something to be controlled, directed, transformed into ambition and creativity. When a man begins to control that energy, instead of constantly releasing it, something begins to change. His mind becomes sharper, his focus stabilizes, his drive becomes consistent. Instead of chasing stimulation, he begins chasing mastery. This is the moment the awakening begins, not when a man gains new power, but when he stops wasting the power he already has. Because real strength is not about gaining something external. It is about learning to command what already exists inside you. And once a man learns to control his impulses instead of being controlled by them, he becomes a very different person. Calmer, more focused, more dangerous. This is the moment a man begins to awaken his true power. Long before the modern world existed, many civilizations understood something that most men today have forgotten. Power begins with self-command. The ancient Stoic philosophers believed this deeply. Men like Marcus Aurelius wrote constantly about the importance of controlling impulses and desires. He ruled the largest empire on earth, commanded armies, and held enormous authority. Yet, when you read his personal writings, you see something surprising. He did not spend his time worrying about enemies. He spent his time mastering himself. Control your reactions, control your thoughts, control your desires, because the man who cannot control himself will eventually lose control of everything else. This same principle appeared in other traditions as well. In ancient India, many yogic teachings emphasized the concept of brahmacharya, a discipline focused on controlling desire and directing energy towards spiritual and mental growth. The idea was simple. When a man constantly indulges his impulses, his mind becomes scattered. But when he learns restraint, his attention becomes powerful. Instead of reacting to every desire, he directs his energy toward something greater. Even in ancient China, Taoist teachings spoke about preserving life force and directing energy through discipline and balance. These traditions were not trying to suppress human nature. They were trying to master it, because they understood something fundamental about the human mind. The same force that creates desire can also create greatness. When that energy is constantly released through impulse, it disappears quickly. But when it is controlled, it begins to build. Focus becomes stronger. Discipline becomes easier. Ambition becomes clearer. This is why warrior cultures throughout history emphasized restraint. A soldier who cannot control himself cannot control fear. A leader who cannot control himself cannot command respect. A builder who cannot control himself cannot create anything that lasts. Self-command has always been the foundation of power. The men who shaped civilizations understood this. They guarded their attention. They trained their minds. They directed their energy toward building something meaningful instead of chasing every impulse that appeared. And that is the moment where transformation begins, when a man stops asking how to satisfy every desire and starts asking how to direct his energy toward becoming someone powerful. Because once a man learns to control himself, very little in the world can control him. At some point, a man begins to notice something. He notices that every time he follows impulse, he becomes weaker. Every time he chooses comfort over discipline, something inside him fades. His focus becomes shorter. His motivation becomes inconsistent. His mind becomes scattered. And slowly, he begins to understand something that most men never realize. His greatest enemy is not outside. It is inside. The voice that says, just this once. The voice that says, you deserve it. The voice that pulls him toward pleasure instead of purpose. Most men spend their entire lives obeying that voice. But the moment a man begins to resist it, something incredible begins to happen. His mind becomes clearer. His focus becomes sharper. The same energy that once pushed him toward impulse now begins pushing him toward growth. This is where the awakening begins, because sexual energy is not just about desire. It is raw drive. It is the biological force that pushes men to compete, build, conquer, and create. When that energy is constantly released through lust, it disappears quickly. But when it is controlled, it begins to accumulate, and accumulated energy changes a man. His presence becomes stronger. His attention becomes deeper. His ambition becomes relentless. This is why many disciplined men describe the same transformation. They feel more focused, more driven, more alive, not because they gained something new, but because they stopped wasting the power that was already inside them. This is the moment where a man begins to understand his true potential. The world becomes quieter. Distractions lose their grip. Impulses no longer control him. Instead of reacting to every urge, he directs his energy toward work, toward mastery, toward building something meaningful with his life. And once a man reaches that state, something changes in the way he moves through the world. He becomes calm, focused, difficult to distract, difficult to break. The modern world is not built for men like that. It is built for distracted men, men who chase pleasure, men who leak their attention, men who never realize how powerful they could have been. But the man who learns to control his impulses and direct his energy becomes rare, and rare men shape the future, because the greatest transformation in a man's life does not happen when he gains power. It happens the moment he stops wasting it. That is the moment a man awakens his true power.